Right, we're going to start with this one from Carl on Instagram. Would you like these mailbag questions in English or Portuguese?
How has this got through?
How has Gary Cotterill got through? How does he get so much access to top managers?
It's because he works for... Yeah, he shouldn't... Yeah, I get what you're saying, Jim.
Yeah.
Do we need to run through this? The meaning of this for anyone that might have missed it?
I think we probably should, yeah.
Go on then, Vish.
So Gary Cotterill is a Sky Sports News reporter. As part of that remit, he has, as part of his job spec, he goes around
Annoying people.
essentially following stories across Europe, not just in the UK, and I imagine further afield as well. And because of that, he needs to justify his presence at said events. So I'm being serious here.
Yeah, I can laugh, though.
So a lot of times, as part of the foreign media, if he goes to another country, you will often get first dibs in certain sections and whatever, particularly on live sections, because often press conferences might have an embargoed bit for later in the week and whatever. And so in those situations, you will ask essentially the questions that you're sent there for. But in Gary Cotterill's situation, he decides that he just wants to make a nuisance of himself. And I think he's watched too many videos of Jeremy Paxman and people doorstepping, for example, politicians for genuinely serious matters, and wants a piece of that. And doesn't realise he comes across as a bit of a fool. And I'm not just saying that because that's how he approached trying to speak to Eric Ten Hag by chasing him through a car park, or because he basically tried to hijack a Ruben Amorim press conference and ordered him to speak in English, asked his too kind, and then was batted away quite pleasantly by Amorim.
Very politely and
Jim,
diplomatically, I thought.
Jim, the oldest peace treaty, continuously running peace treaty in the world, is between England, obviously then now UK, and Portugal. Do you think Cotterill... Yeah, genuinely, it's fascinating. It's good fact. Do you think Cotterill's damaged that somehow?
You think he's jeopardised it?
Yeah.
It's possible, isn't it? Because, I mean, the reasons that treaty was in place was probably like, look, we're going to be absolute bastards over here. If you be bastards over there, then it'll work out better for both of us. I don't know if that's necessarily the same now. So there's an absolute... Gary Cotterill might be the reason that gets ripped up. You're absolutely right. Okay. He's dangerous. He's a dangerous man. What I find really interesting about it as well is that Manchester United are a news-generating machine, whether things are going well, whether they're going badly. They are a really important part of the Sky Sports News ecosystem. And with 2 managers in a row, he has alienated himself straight away and sort of alienated them by sort of larger association as well. It's like, do they want this to happen, or is he like a rogue agent? that they can't control? And the Cotterill identity.
Other listeners might not know Cotterill, but would know. You'd probably be familiar with some of his patter. So there was, he's done a few Arsenal press conferences and he's asked some ludicrous questions to Mikel Arteta.
Hates him so much.
Yeah,
but like.
I think he played him a song to his phone, didn't he? Like a child at the back of the bus.
Yeah, he's good at not giving much away in press conferences, Arteta. It's like he's made a whole thing of it. He's made an art form of it. He couldn't hide that. He could not hide his feelings.
And the other thing that's important to mention in terms of like Sky Sports are culpable for this as well, because what they are in is they're basically in an arms race for content. And so they want it to be seen as that weird reaction from the manager, that was elicited by our guy that we sent out there. So, some of the clips are basically unusable, but they put them out anyway because it's like, Arteta didn't like this question, or Amorim was a bit defensive about this. It's like, yeah, no shit, he's talking to a fucking moron.
Yeah, you say all this, and you're right to say all this.
We sent a clown to a funeral. Guess what happened next?
It's very basically unfunny. I think you should leave.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, but it is making me think, shouldn't we send Pete to some of these press conferences?
Without
shouldn't we send somebody
to
alienate ourselves further from the mainstream?
Yeah, like just basically, whatever Cotterill asks, you get into the stream of that and then go even stupider.
Yeah, that's it.
My right honourable friend has got a really good point here.
We give Peter remit, which is you go and you stick yourself to Gary Cotterill.
Yeah, you out-Cotterill
and you make sure he's the straight man.
Yes, yeah. And you laugh hysterically when he answers a question.
That's right.
When he
that's
asks
right.
a question, even.
Oh dear, I think we need to move on to the next question, though, Jim.
We do. We have a more serious question from Bob on Threads. Marcus and Vish, as supporters of mid-table sides, what's the best you hope for? Realistically, you're not going to win the league.
No.
Do you just hope for safety in a cup run?
Yeah, I think we do, don't we?
I
mean, that's what Fulham had last season.
Yeah.
Good cup run, safety, a win at Old Trafford. Not this season, sadly, but yeah, I think fans like us, I think that's the best you can hope for.
To be fair, the Man United cup run went all the way to the the trophy lifting ceremony last season.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Do you know what? I'd forgotten about that. I stand corrected. No, obviously that's Vish has seen his side win lots and lots of trophies. It was a while ago.
Thank you for defending the name of Manchester United Football Club.
I do, yeah. And you saw them in recent seasons as Ten Hag. I obviously I'm better placed to answer this. I mean, but even with Arsenal, I mean, it's not mid-table for crying out loud, but there was
an 8th place finish not that long ago.
Yeah, true. I mean, look. Yeah, I mean, Fulham are obviously a better case study for mid-table sides with regards to this question. And it is a good question. Sometimes when sides, I think we spoke about this recently, I'm thinking Stoke City under Pulis, all the way back to Kerbishley under Charlton, there will be other examples, is clearly they've gone so far. Mm. There is a ceiling there, although Leicester punched through that ceiling. But there is a ceiling there of how far you can go for a number of reasons. What is the best you hope for? Well, you don't want to get relegated, obviously, but you want to be in the Premier League. You want those glamorous trips and so on. Now, the Championship, I think, is actually a more enjoyable league for a supporter. If you do well in it, of course.
Yeah.
There are plenty of other sides. Bradford, Huddersfield, you can start naming them all. Who, Fulham have been lucky because they've been a yo-yo side. So it's not a case of, we go down to the Championship and we can win most weeks and it's going to be great. No, you can stagnate in there. Forest and Leeds fans know this as well. But to eventually answer the question, that is probably it, to be quite frank. Fulham, as I've mentioned time and time again, have never won a major trophy in their existence. So a cup run is quite exciting. Jim, you were there last season for the semi-final second leg against Liverpool, and Fulham ran them close. Now, clearly Liverpool won the game, but there was a kind of an excitement, and even though Fulham lost the game, there was a sort of sense of satisfaction of, do you know what? I saw my team play in a semi-final against the big side and give a good account of themselves. There will be fans of big teams going, really? But I haven't seen that before.
But also, football isn't just about the results at the end of the season, isn't it? It's about the actual football that takes place. Like, I had a brilliant time last season, even though it was kind of heartbreaking in the end, but I enjoyed so many of the games and so many of those moments and experiences, and I didn't retrospectively have a bad time because Arsenal didn't win the league, and that has to be the important thing, right? And that's why you want to be in the Premier League, right?
Because totally. Yeah,
like the other night, like the win against Brentford is absolutely brilliant.
Totally.
And obviously you can still have wins like that in the Championship, but you're certainly not going to play a Liverpool or a Man United or whatever. A question sort of on this as well, given that Fulham have yo-yoed and stuff. Mm-hmm. When Fulham have been promoted as winners of the Championship, do you feel like you've won the league or like you've been promoted, or is there a bit of both? Yeah,
it's a good question. I think it is a bit of both. I always say that the best game to win in English football is the playoff final, the Championship playoff final, because you get the enormous jubilation of the final win at Wembley, and it's been a long, long season. The Championship in itself is a long season. You then get the little cuppy bit at the end in the playoff,
and you get like. Is it the £100 million game?
Well, you've got all
a briefcase full of
indeed,
cash at the end of it.
Someone, a man in a suit comes on and hands it to you. But so you get that because, especially if you finish third, which I've seen Fulham do, you think, bloody hell, you're nearly automatic promotion. You win the game. And then what's to come? You don't have that weird feeling of the cup competition finishes. It's like, right, thanks very much for coming. The festival's over. See you later. Bye. You have something massive to look forward to. But I think as well, though, with the, as I said, the sort of the mid-table thing, when a side is promoted, you've got to battle to get to mid-table. And there is a real satisfaction in that. But also as well, when you know you're a mid-table side, actually, it's quite nice being the underdog sometimes and giving the big boys a bloody nose and so on. I used to work with a Palace fan many years ago, and Palace went to, and this will date it, Palace went to Old Trafford and lost 5-2. And at half-time, it was 2-2. And I probably mentioned this before. At half-time, it was 2-2, and Manchester United had a penalty saved by, I think it was Kirai, the Hungarian jogger-wearing keeper in goal for Palace. And he came into the office on the Monday morning where, of course, as it was in Surrey, there was a few Man United fans. And they were like, 5-2, oh, you must have had a... Because he went to Palace home and away. And he looked at them and went, what are you talking about? Had a brilliant day.
Yeah.
I saw my team score 2 goals at Old Trafford, and we said at half time we were singing and it was great.
Yeah.
Because that's a bonus, right? So that's how you look at it. I mean, Ben Bailey Smith, aka Doc Brown, brilliant stand-up comedian who opened for our live shows as an actor. Literally, you name it, he's done it. Rapper.
That's what he's most known for, isn't it? Opening for us.
Yeah, well, I thought some people would have seen him.
The peak of his career so far.
You might not have seen that film he did with Ricky Gervais, but you would have seen him opening for the Ramble.
To be fair, that's a really piss poor film. That genuinely was better opening for us than that. But he said when Palace drew 3-3 with Liverpool to stop them winning the league, Cristambul.
Yes.
And he said he's got some Liverpool supporting friends, and he was a bit like, and they said, well, is that all you've got stopping us winning? Is that all the highlight of your season? He was like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That is it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people support big ties and they don't understand that is what it is. In the same way, if you look at it in international football with England and Scotland have never been past the first round of a major tournament. But when England lose, whether it is now in a final or not, they go, you could get over that or whatever. To turn around, for an English supporter, to turn around and go, oh, is that all you've got? Is that... Well, currently, yes. Like it's sort of a daft thing. So mid-table, people talk about mid-table obscurity. It's not obscure for Fulham. It's not obscure for when Portsmouth did it, when Stoke, and you could start naming them all. It's a brilliant thing, and especially when you're a side who Fulham are a London club, of course, but right next to Chelsea, you've got Arsenal and Spurs up the road. Bigger clubs around. I think, clearly, if Fulham, you're 10 seasons of mid-table, you might want something there. I understand that. But generally as a mid-table side, it probably doesn't work out that way too much. You're looking at maybe Everton and West Ham, but look at the frustrations they've got. With their lot, they've tried to push on, not quite happening, and so on. So it's a funny old thing, but actually, being a mid-table Premier League side, unless a specific example, as with say maybe West Ham or Everton, that is what it's about.
I wonder if it's kind of, as a fan, it's the most zen state your club can be in, because
maybe
if you're a supporter of a big club, even if the club's in the doldrums and has been for a long time, as both our clubs, Vish, have experienced, even then, when you don't expect to even finish in the top 4 or whatever, every defeat is still a disaster. It's still a crisis. You simply don't have that.
No, exactly.
So it can be exhausting, that.
Well, it can be. And as well, this is not like a defeatist attitude. It's a realistic attitude. If I go and watch Fulham, and I mean, look, when they lost away to Manchester City, it's like, it's gutting. It's like, it could have been a famous victory. But my goodness, that was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, kind of thing. So you do... Again, sounds like sort of loser talk almost, but that'd have been a good day out of the football for everybody, And
then you leave the stadium and you're in Putney, enjoying your delicious life.
Yeah, it was away in Manchester, but I understand what you mean, Jim. You're absolutely right.
You get the plane down.
The helicopter.
To London City Airport.
You get the chopper. Yeah, exactly.
Back in Putney for dinner. I mean, the thing about this question, like mid-table teams have, in the Premier League, say, have the most in common with most teams in the country.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I mean, I think
mid-table changes actually a bit more than you might think.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but apart from the teams that are battling for relegation who have never been in that situation before.
Yes.
So, for example, someone like Everton, there is always this kind of sense of if/when they get relegated, it's disaster because it's not happened to them.
Yeah.
Whatever. But they're a huge minority in that regard.
Well, hence I said there's quite special teams, West Ham and Everton.
Yeah, but
even though West Ham have been down, sorry.
But I suppose it's framed from the big club, it's about winning trophies. It kind of isn't.
Yeah.
It's about doing well in cup competitions and doing well in the league.
Most teams don't win trophies.
But it's not about winning trophies. It's what when you look at even the people who've won the League Cup recently.
Yeah.
It's so it's such a specific pool of teams who can afford to I suppose go through the motions in a season when they're also concentrating on other things.
Your trophies are like what happened on last Monday night. Two injury time goals to beat local rivals.
Yeah.
That is.
It's also the point of the sport, isn't it?
Totally.
We're sat around this table talking about it because we all love football, and that's how we started. We didn't love football because probably rich for me to say this as a West London-born Manchester United fan, but generally I fell in love with the players and the success, rather than just the success.
Yeah.
And so it would never really work, and it never really works like that. And I don't think it does work like that until you decide to get into an argument with a fan of an opposing team.
Yeah.
Because by and large, you don't go there and think, there's sometimes where you might go to a game and you win, and you're like, I did enjoy winning. I didn't necessarily enjoy that as a day out because the performance wasn't great. But you can watch a barn burner where it's like 4-4 and be like, that was a brilliant day.
Yeah,
I'm glad I support football and this team.
It's ultimately you go to be entertained.
Yeah.
And obviously, if your team are crap and they get absolutely hammered, then you will be less entertained. But don't ever forget that's what it's about. It's why do you watch a film? Why do you listen to that music? It's to give you a good feeling.
The point is to enjoy it.
Exactly. So bloody enjoy it, whether you're mid-table, whether you're crap, or whether you're going for a Premier League title, which Fulham aren't.
Got to congratulate Bob on kicking off a serious debate with a quite heavy dig.
Yeah,
it's a fine balance to be struck there.
Well played, Bob.
Our next question comes from Bailey on email. I have an exciting proposition to fix the League Cup after your discussion last weekend. How about we create a British Cup and have league clubs from across England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland? Gibraltar can join if they like.
Get the imps in.
Get them competing against each other. The final venues could rotate between the nations and you could end up with, Celtic versus Manchester City. It all sounds pretty tasty to me.
As hypothetical cup competitions go, this one comes up quite a lot. I don't hate it in principle because you could maybe sell it as something that would improve relations between nations, which it absolutely would not. But maybe that's how you try and do it. So I looked at this. I'm presuming this is this would be league members from each nation would go into it. So there are 92 teams in England, 42 in Scotland, 24 in Northern Ireland. In the Welsh league setup, there are 12 teams in the top division, 32 in the second division, which is split into north and south, and then with 16 in each. Then below that, it gets more regional. So I don't know if they get entered or not, but there are loads, like so many. So there's like another 64 odd.
So the big clubs wouldn't join until round 6?
Well, this is what I'm thinking. So it would essentially what I'm getting to is if the Welsh system is massive, but it gets semi-pro as you go down. So this would actually have more teams in it than the FA Cup when it started if you wanted to include all of those divisions.
Yeah.
So, we love the FA Cup. We love the early rounds of it.
Yeah.
So it actually might be quite fun. I mean, it would be a logistical nightmare and it would add more fixtures, but genuinely, I don't see why, it would be any different from the fun of the World Cup if you got, say, like,
the fun of the World Cup.
Liverpool going to some, like, tiny Welsh village.
Right. That would be fun, would it?
Yeah, it would.
Right.
I mean, in a hypothetical sense where players don't get tired and fixture congestion isn't a thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's fun in a hypothetical sense, Jim.
And this is very much a hypothetical show.
Right, okay. Fish?
Put me down as Chelsea D winners of the British League Cup. Yeah. I don't know. The way to fix the League Cup is to kill the League Cup. Yeah. So
yeah, put it out of its misery.
Yeah,
turn it into glue.
Turn
it into Carabao.
Yeah. What would you do with the third handle? We could, as in memory of the League Cup, we'll stick the third handle on the FA Cup.
There you go.
So we always know it's there.
Not on the FA Cup. Maybe
put it inside it, like a Turducken or Inception.
Put it in the football museum.
Yeah, fair.
Bailey, I think it's bollocks and a dreadful idea. But
never email us again. But thank you for your email.
No entertaining that idea from Marcus.
This is from Demi on Instagram. After Frank Lampard was linked to the Roma job and it was widely laughed off, and then looking back at how Gary Neville was joked about when he failed in Spain, and then similar with Scott Parker in Belgium, do you think our reaction to English managers working in Europe is limiting the opportunities and development of coaches from England?
Can I ask a broader...
Interesting he chose Gary Neville as an example.
Yeah. Can I ask a broader question about this?
Go on.
Which has always intrigued me, not least because of my own educational experience.
Yeah, which was very high.
Not that. Do you think it's something to do with the fact that, unlike the rest of Europe, we don't really go into language until quite late, and we don't necessarily learn that much about through languages, learn about just other European countries, customs, things like that. And maybe not so much customs, but certainly the way things work in mainland Europe.
How to express your intentions on the beach.
Yes, exactly. That you need to talk English loudly in a certain way before toppling over the the gardenware to really get your point across. No, but seriously.
No, I understand the point you're saying.
Do you think there's...
I think the language barrier is a thing. The thought of communicating through a translator or something is, quite literally foreign. Whereas if you're more aware that there's a border just sort of 50 miles that way where they do things a bit different and they speak another language, there is that. But I don't think that's the big issue here. But I think it is a factor.
Not a big issue, but I think maybe it influences how people view it, and I wonder if it has a many stages back has a knock-on effect to I suppose the reticence to go overseas, because I see it more as reticence rather than they don't want any of our coaches.
Indeed. So if you look at where English managers operate, and there is a fair few operating outside of Britain, it is nearly exclusively either international jobs for smaller international teams, McClaren being the obvious one at Jamaica, but there has been one or two over the year. You'll often find the manager of the India national football team or the Thailand national football team, something like that, has been an Englishman in the past. And so you have a few of these examples. You get a few English managers pop up in Major League Soccer. You get some in Australia and New Zealand, but again, it's where English is spoken, and these jobs, there's less pressure away from the line. Obviously Saudi with Gerrard and one or two others going there, but it's on the continent of Europe where football is played at its highest in league form. So what is it about that? I mean, we spoke before on this pod about the lack of quality of English coaches produced in this country. That's a big reason for this. But actually, if you look at one or two others, say Graham Potter would be the obvious one to choose. If you're not getting the opportunities in England, or you do fancy looking around and seeing what you can do, then why not go abroad? But you don't have that many examples of managers. You have to go all the way back to Bobby Robson, who did pretty well at Barcelona.
And McClaren himself would probably be the most successful since that because of his time at Twente.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Hodgson, again, it was sort of slim pickings. I know he managed Inter, but a long time ago now.
You got also you got to factor in where the money is in football, and it is in England.
Yeah, there's that as well. But I mean, can you ever see the day that the German national team or the Italian national team go for an English manager? It's laughable to think that.
No,
and imagine an English manager managing, say, I don't know, Real Madrid. I mean, I know it's not English, but John Toshak. Did he manage Real Madrid, or he certainly?
Yeah,
right, a while ago. But I'm talking very much in the present day. Borussia Dortmund have hired that up-and-coming English manager.
Terry Venables managed Barcelona, didn't he?
Yeah, but again, it's very slim pick. It's been the history of English coaches.
From a different century.
Yeah, the history of English coaches. I mean, you go back to, I don't know, you go all the way back to somebody like Jimmy Hogan or something, or Vic Buckingham. You go all the way back. These are sort of like the granddaddies of certain styles of play in European football. It just seems, again, like English managers in European football terms is almost a bit like, when Hungary were a really, really good side and they were innovators. Yeah. It's a past of the history books.
I suppose Bobby Robson won the UEFA Cup with Ipswich, didn't he? So he would have been seen as kind of one of the kind of innovators in his time. And I guess European football has moved so far beyond that, and so far beyond when English teams were dominant in Europe, that it, as you say, it does seem laughable now. But the question essentially said, is it the reaction to English managers working in Europe limiting the opportunities and development of coaches from the UK? And I've never really thought about that before, because I suppose we only see it in our own little kind of British banter bubble. But I suppose the way things went for Gary Neville in particular in Valencia, it was kind of.
But that was a ridiculous one.
It was a ridiculous one, but there aren't many other examples lately, are there? Especially not in the top leagues.
Liam Rosenior is one who's in Liga with Strasbourg, who apparently is doing okay. So that's a bit more like it. Sure. I know people talk about, say, Will Still, but again, his education was elsewhere. So I don't know if Will Still is if he classifies himself as English or Belgian or whatever.
He's a bit of a unique example of it.
Yes, exactly. So Liam Rosenior, to me, seems the only one who is worthy of a mention with regards to this at the moment.
With regards to Will Still, though, then would you consider Mikel Arteta a product of the English system?
Oh, that's a fair question. That is a fair question.
I don't know. I mean, he came through La Masia, didn't he? So he's got that sort of education.
As a player, but
true.
But he's got a very different football education from the beginning.
Even if you do count Will Still, there's two.
But
do you know what I mean? And he's not managing a top European side.
I'm not saying we have to have an army of it, but I think I think Jim made a quite salient point earlier about Bobby Robson winning the UEFA Cup
Yeah.
with Ipswich. I kind of think that's all it takes, like a bit of continental success. Because then you're in a situation where you're a known manager, you get trusted to do big jobs, and it might just be that those big jobs are in, in the UK.
I think the reaction is that there's still a bit of a defeatist attitude towards English coaches in this country. It's almost a bit like, oh, you go over there, you couldn't hack it, you couldn't do it. Yeah, it was too. I think English coaches are seen.
Who do you think you are?
Well, I think it's seen as they're a bit basic tactically, which they are.
I think that's
and I
right.
think you go there, and especially if you're trying to get your message across in a second language, that's going to make it difficult. But it's not just that, because clearly managers, Bielsa's managed to do that.
We do that over here as well. Like, it's kind of wild to me that Graham Potter's still out of a job.
Yeah, but maybe that's out of his choice, though.
I think he's still getting paid by Chelsea, isn't he? Or he was until a little while ago. So maybe he's just biding his time.
But West Ham made a note of basically not shunning him, but overlooking him when they came to appoint Lopetegui in the summer.
But Graham Potter wasn't laughed off, though, after his
I think that
European exploits.
Well, you say that. I think off the back of the way the Chelsea thing went.
No, but that was in this country. I'm saying.
Oh, you mean when he was at Ostersund's?
Yeah, when they go abroad and then they come back.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, I think we do that over here to our own managers anyway. They don't necessarily need to go overseas to have that.
Quite
Had it
possibly.
with David Moyes.
I mean, remember Pardew, went to the Eredivisie as well. And that didn't go very well. And you think, what's he doing abroad? There is a defeatist attitude because we haven't got any decent English coaches. If Potter got a job, or Eddie Howe, say he gets
Eddie
sacked by
Howe was the one I was
Newcastle,
thinking of. Yeah.
they're the only two really. If they get a job, let's say Potter, I don't know, gets something like, I don't know, the Napoli job or something like that. I know they've got a manager, but or somebody, Roma, for example, went for him. I think, bloody hell, that I would actually have a bit of faith in him, and I think that's really interesting. And I would really, but if he fails, it's kind of like, he can't hack it.
I got it. Potter at AC Milan.
Why Milan?
Because they're not doing that very well. They
just won at the Bernabeu.
They've got, but they're like, what, they 7th in Serie A?
Yeah, fine.
It can't be 6 teams better than Milan.
Just beat the European champions at their own patch.
Yeah, fine, but they're still struggling in the league.
But have they got one of ours?
Yeah.
See, this is what
they have our players.
Why didn't you choose Roma? They're wanting a new manager.
Yeah, Roma, but they don't have English players, do they? They got loads. AC Milan have got loads of English
players. Where's Tammy Abraham these days?
He's at AC Milan.
He is at AC Milan. Yeah, Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Oh, I see what you're doing here. Tamori.
But I think we talk a lot about English exceptionalism in this country, especially in recent years, and how it can be quite a damaging thing and how it can be quite a sort of deluded thing at times. But I think this is the opposite.
I do as well.
We can be really cynical sometimes about things as well. So there are two really opposing aspects of the national character that a lot of people seem to have. But there is a sense that, like, of course you're going to fail if you go and do that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right to say that. You hear a lot of people who work in films and stuff when they go to America, and they go, cool, they're a lot more encouraging over there, aren't they? I wasn't hated.
It's like they want this to be good.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it's a great question from old Demi there, and one that I'm sure a lot of people have opinions on, and it's something that we no doubt will come back to until Graham Potter wins the Champions League with Roma. No pressure, Graham. Sorry, AC Milan, yes. He takes over mid-season.
Garibaldi's been in touch. Possibly a sentient biscuit. We simply don't know. Via YouTube. As Fulham prepared to bring on Harry Wilson and Tom Kearney, my daughter asked me what their songs were. Oh. She thought all players had walk-on music a la boxing, MMA, etc. Does the Ramble think this should be introduced? And what would be your walk-on tracks? Wilson should consider the Superman theme tune. That's obviously because we've spoken a lot about how he thrives in midair.
I'll tell you what their songs are. You can just hear me from the other end going, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we all know what your songs are. Not the specific song, but we certainly know the artist.
Do you know what? I've never been so vindicated in all my life. I kept saying, get them on! Get those two beautiful boys on.
I'm curious to know how much MMA and boxing Garibaldi's daughter watches.
I was also intrigued by that.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know how old she is.
Yeah.
I'm assuming young, maybe not.
A child.
There are slight concerns about the Americanization of the Premier League due to the amount of owners, and then people like Todd Bowley saying we should have an all-star game. And this, of course, would be deemed as that. But I think this is one I'd be willing to go with.
I don't hate it. They do it in, I suppose it's kind of proves your point, but they do it in baseball when when batters come out, and it's quite cool. Obviously, it's taken from wrestling and, as you mentioned, MMA and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm a fan. I think.
Can you imagine though? You would know as well that if you're at the side of the ground and you've not seen the music starting, like, oh my goodness, they're about to bring on Tom Kearney.
Yeah.
Which is the pop in wrestling is a magnificent, magnificent thing. When someone's music comes on before you've seen who it is absolutely amazing. And the DJ at Arsenal plays a lot of WWE themes at half time.
Vish?
Yeah. He allows us to put in requests and listen to the show.
He's great.
He does a lot of wrestling theme tunes.
I think he played Metallica last year, possibly at the Crystal Palace game.
What's his name, Vish?
DJ Solenki.
So, DJ Solenki, Jim wants you to play more Pitbull at the end.
Take that with a pinch of salt, please. But there is something about that type of music on a grand scale that is quite magnificent.
But this would be, if it's at home, I mean, it'd be fun if you were away from home, wouldn't it? You know, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a particular Spurs player coming on at Stamford Bridge. They'd be like, I'm sorry, we're not having this. But it would get the crowd going, I think.
Music does have a really kind of emotional effect on everyone listening to it, doesn't it? I would be very intrigued to see how a whole game set to a soundtrack played out. If, like, the DJ could, like, up the pace of it, and if the players would respond subconsciously.
I think you'd have to only be able to do it for the home team.
Yeah.
Because the DJ would be sabotaging.
You can't be bringing a DJ, can you? So we know you're going for Pitbull. I think I would lean into the WWE theme, and because I have a Scottish surname, probably go for some horrendously distorted bagpipe style thing. So it's a bit unnerving and unsettles everybody before I come on.
Ooh, what about...
I'd be a heel.
What about the start of Icky Thump by the White Stripes? That's a bit bagpipey.
Actually, yeah, and that's kind of electric bagpipey sounding as well, yeah.
Ooh, I think that would be good.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
I thought you were going to maybe say Inside by Stiltskin, but maybe it's a bit done and dusted. A bit done these days.
Fish, how about you?
Yeah.
I think it's... I have two. One is...
One for when you come off.
Yeah, even as a sub, I'm
this
not
is the end. Regrets, I've had a few. It goes off to New York, New York. That's it. Nothing else to see here. Night's finished. Go on, what's your...
Bad world.
God, what's your intro?
I'm just picking my favourite songs. Lucchini by Camplo, which is a very good intro. I would encourage you to listen to it at the end of the show.
Pick something that maybe people have heard.
I reckon loads of people have heard that. I think I'd go, not because it's me, but Immigrant Song.
Good one.
Nice. Yeah, and I know someone's going to suggest Punjabi MC. I'm not going on with that.
I don't think anybody is. I did think that the Baywatch theme tune would be good.
Oh my God, yes.
Some people stand in the darkness.
Or maybe you should have goal music. So the Baywatch theme tune comes on, you whip your shirt off, you take the booking because it's worth it.
Can you imagine? Do you remember?
That's very can adjacent, isn't it?
Yes.
Come with me back to the summer of 2021 for Euro 2020. Jack Grealish with walk-on music. Remember when we were all clamouring for come on, and every time he came on, it was, dear.
Well,
I don't know what it would be, but...
during that summer...
there was a track, wasn't there?
Yeah, there's a track by The Manor called Grealish, which
wasn't
is genuinely
bad.
brilliant.
Yeah, it was a decent track. I do remember that.
And he got played a lot. He got played at Wembley. And, you know, Jim, you mentioned the pop there. Every time he warmed up, he was, like, roundly cheered, and they'd play that song before England games at a major tournament, which is crazy.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I also just want to reiterate for anyone who missed it the first time I said it, I went to a white-collar boxing thing a friend of mine was participating in a little while ago, and obviously they choose their own entrance music, and then they have a fight. One guy came out to the Champions League music, and it was so funny. It was just so funny.
I love it. Imagine if you'd have chosen the Europa League music. Oh, dear. Excellent. Great question there from Gary Boldy. Vish, you've got the final one.
Our last question comes from Keith on Instagram. I have a similar problem to the guy who was debating missing a wedding to go to Spurs West Ham. I recently won a competition for hospitality tickets to see Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest at the end of November.
Lovely.
My wife would love to go, but isn't really that into football. But my best mate is a huge Arsenal fan who hasn't managed to get tickets to a game before. I'm really split and need your guys' help. Cheers.
It's a tough one,
this is
isn't
very
it?
tough.
Because there are really strong arguments for either side. Now, obviously, if the friend has never seen a game before in the stadium, that has a lot of meaning because of the huge emotional attachment that you have to the team. But also, you know, if your wife wants to come and share in one of your passions, that's a lovely thing as well. She's, of course, the most important person in your life. So it is... there simply is no choice other than to put them into a series of challenges to prove their loyalty.
Yeah. I was going to say one challenge: fight.
I think his wife, because he says wife, has proved her loyalty by signing a document saying that I will be with this person till death do us part.
But it's that emotional attachment, though. It says in the email she doesn't care about it that much,
Jim,
or doesn't like football that much.
I'll tell you something. My friend who hasn't managed to get tickets to a game before. Oh, did he not support them when they were in the Europa League? You can get tickets for that, can't you?
Can
you not?
I don't know.
League Cup. Don't you mean I don't know?
What you can say to his
We
wife?
have season tickets, Marcus. We're the 1%.
No, come on. I think, look, we have to give an answer, I think, rather than just saying, it's a tricky one. I think, Keith, take your wife. Although, have a chat with your wife, and if she
why don't
can...
you just talk to them about it?
Yeah, talk. It's good to talk.
Yeah.
It's good to, as Bob Hoskins told us all those years
The
ago.
late, great Bob Hoskins.
Absolutely right.
Sorry to break that to you, Vish.
He was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, wasn't he?
Oh,
yes.
Have you watched it recently? It stands up. It's good so magnificently. It's brilliant.
Good.
It is good. So, yeah, Keith, while you're watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit, talk to your wife after about this. And just sort
Imagine
of...
that. So I've got an answer about this dilemma. Apparently, we've got to watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I think will be quite distracting.
Yeah, I think so.
But we'll figure it out doing
Halfway
that.
through, he's a really good actor. He's dead.
Yeah. Oh dear. But yeah, so I would just sort of float the idea of your friend. But if she's disappointed anyway, you got to take your wife, because your mate. There are early FA Cup rounds that Arsenal are in, League Cup games that you can say to, and also as well, you don't want your first game to be a hospitality one. If that you get used to it, it's too high a bar. Your man needs to be on the terraces first, earn his stripes, and then he gets the hospitality. For me, it was the other way round. No, I was joking. So that's what I would say. Jim, who are you going for? The best friend or the wife?
Oh, you have to go for the wife. It's the commitment you've made, isn't it?
Vish.
Take one of us instead.
There you go. Thanks for listening to the Football Ramble Mailbag, part of the Acast Creator Network. Remember to get your questions in for next week's episode. Follow us on X, TikTok and Instagram at Football Ramble, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And vote for us for the FSA Awards, you beautiful people. Have a lovely weekend. See you Monday.
Thank you for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.